I don't even want to talk, I just want to keep eating. Guys, you have no idea how excited I am to get this recipe out to you. This is one of my favorite curries, if not one of my favorite dinners of all time. First, I'm going to show you guys how to make the actual curry, and then we're going to go into some side options and some protein options, and to show you guys how to customize it to better fit your preferences. So without further ado, let's make some Japanese curry. Now you may be wondering, Josh, why is this your favorite dinner of all time? Well, I'm going to tell you why. This is a textbook definition of perfection in a meal. You do not need to be some master level chef to make this, and the end result is mind-blowing. It's healthy, cheap, it's great practice for your knife skills, and you probably have most of these ingredients lying around anyways. But enough yapping, let's get into the recipe. First, you're going to peel 3 medium-sized russet potatoes and 2 large carrots. Now for the apple, start at the top and pull the peeler towards your thumb like so. You're gonna go around the top, and then once you make one complete lap, start going down the apple. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can have some pieces of skin on these veggies. It's not really gonna matter. And I really recommend wrapping the apple in saran wrap or some sort of plastic wrap so that it doesn't oxidize before we're ready to grate it. Now for the knife work, we're gonna start by quartering the potatoes. So just make one lengthwise cut, separating them in half, and then make one more on each half. Then line up 2 of the quarters and start chopping straight down, making about bite-sized pieces. They don't have to be perfect or symmetrical, you just want them about 1 inch long, or however big you want them. Then we're going to set these to the side in a large bowl that we're going to put all of our produce in, and just repeat with the rest of your potatoes. And just a general tip as you're cooking, I always recommend having a trash can next to you so you don't have to make multiple stops. After you take the tips off of your carrots, you can just dump them right into the trash. But for the carrots, we're going to be using what's called an oblique cut. So instead of angling your knife straight, you're going to turn it about 45 degrees and slice downwards. And there's 2 ways that you can do this. You can either roll the carrot, or what you can do is you can just turn the carrot, if this helps you keep the knife at the same angle. Either way, it's going to get you the same shape. Just find what works best for you. You can also just cut them normally. I just like to do this because it makes me feel like a fancy chef. And when you're done, you should have about this kind of size and shape. And also when you're cutting your carrots, make sure that you don't go as long as you're going down to the thicker end of the carrot, because there's going to be more carrot there, so you don't need to keep the length the same. For the garlic, we're just going to rough up the outside to get all these flaky pieces of skin off, and then we can start picking it apart to get our cloves. I'm going to use, I think, pretty much the entire thing of garlic, but it's totally up to you however much you want. Looks like I'm using about 10 cloves here, but again, you can use 2, you can use 5, you can use whatever. Now using the flat side of the knife, we're just gonna smash these garlic cloves down. This is gonna make getting the skin off super easy. And don't be shy to be a little rough with these. And as you can see, the skin just comes right off with no effort. Now that all of our garlic is peeled, we're gonna take off the little brown root at the end. And then we're going to smash these up one more time just to make sure that they don't fly everywhere when we mince them. If you have a garlic smasher, you don't need to do this. You can just smash the garlic, but I don't, so I'm going to use a knife. Then we're going to just run it through the garlic a few times back and forth until we get our desired texture, which is just going to be like a fine mince or dice. It should look something like this. Then just bring it up and transfer it to your veggie bowl. Now I'm going to use about a 1-inch knob of ginger. If you'd rather just use the frozen cubes or even the powder stuff, that's fine. Or even leave it out, you know. But I had this laying around and it goes really well with it, so I'm just going to dice it up just like the garlic. And it can go right over and join the rest of our veggies. Alright, I promise we're almost done with the prep, but we got some green onions. These are also optional. You don't even have to include these if you want, but I'm going to separate the greens from the whites and dice up the whites. The whites are going to go into the veggie bowl, and the greens, just to be a little fancy, we're going to turn our knife lengthways just so it's at a slight angle and just make these super thin, long diagonal slashes. These are just going to make a little bit more of a fancy looking garnish at the end. And I only need to use about 2 of these, so for the rest of them, I'm just going to cut up normally and I'm going to freeze them for later. Onto the onion. First we're going to take off the tips, and then we're going to turn it up and make one cut in half. Then you're going to want to peel off this outer layer, and we're going to turn this into long strips. So start with your knife straight up and angle it downwards like so, and then just cut into the middle. And once you get to the end, it'll get a little bit hard to cut, so just flip it on its side and just repeat until you're done with the onion. And then do this with the other half of the onion. You can even dice this or make it bigger. It's just I prefer this texture in the curry, but it's up to you. Now for the curry, we're going to be using this heavy bottom Dutch oven pot so it'll fit everything in, and we're going to put a little bit of sesame oil and butter at the bottom. This is probably about 2 tablespoons or so, just enough to almost coat the bottom, and then we're going to go in with like about a tablespoon of butter. And we're going to bring this over to the stove, and this is going to preheat on medium. After a few minutes, our pot is ready to go. The butter is melted, and we're going to go ahead and add in our onions. We're going to mix these around to coat everything in the oil and butter, and we're going to season it with salt to help draw out some of the moisture, and also throw in some black pepper too. We're seasoning our onions now to help start building the flavor. Imagine building flavor as a pyramid. You start with a lot of seasoning, and then towards the end of the dish, you can kind of tailor out to your preference. But after a few minutes, our onions are a little bit more flexible and translucent. We're going to add in the rest of our veggies. Now let's talk rice. I'm using 2 cups of short grain rice, and we're going to go wash it a few times so the water is clear. For the water, we're going to be using the knuckle test. So when your fingertip touches the rice, the water should be at the first set of wrinkles on your finger. Mine is good to go, so we're going to go set this in our rice cooker. And once it's done, we're going to fluff this up to help it steam and to help separation and texture. It has been about 5 minutes, and our veggies are starting to get fragrant, and our carrots are starting to pick up some color, so we know we are good to go to the next step. Now it's time to cut our apple in half and grate it straight into our veggies. You can do this beforehand, but again, it will oxidize if it's not covered. At this point, you can throw in whatever seasonings you'd like. If you want to add more garlic, ginger, cumin, whatever. I'm just doing a little bit of salt, and I'm going in with soy sauce. That is required. You need a few tablespoons of soy sauce. Then we're going to fill everything up with water so that the veggies are almost poking out. Then I'm going to stir in about 2 teaspoons of better than bouillon, and this is going to simmer until our veggies are fork tender. Now for protein, I'm going to be using tofu, extra firm, just because it's pretty cheap. And we're going to cut this open and drain it all into the sink. Once this is drained, go ahead and lay your tofu onto some paper towels, and we're going to try our best to dry it up a little bit. Then we're going to break this down into about 1-inch cubes. Or, again, whatever size that you'd prefer. I swear, cutting tofu is probably one of the most satisfying and fun things to cut. Now that we have our tofu broken up into 1-inch pieces, we're going to spread these out and grab another paper towel and try to dry them up again. If we have a lot of water on the tofu, it's not going to crisp up very well. To save dishes, we're going to be using the same produce bowl, and we're going to season with just a little bit of soy sauce and sesame oil, and then salt, pepper, and garlic powder. Once you're done seasoning, it should look something like this. I will say though, be light on the soy and the sesame oil. Then we're going in with about 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and then just get in there with your hands and mix everything together. It's okay if some of it breaks. It's actually going to help the texture in the end. Then go ahead and spray down your air fryer with cooking spray. Add in your tofu, make sure it's as even as you can get it, and then 1 more spray with oil. Air fry this at 400 and just keep an eye on it, and make sure you're shaking it every so often. This has been about 15 minutes or so. We're going to check on our veggies, and our potatoes and carrots are looking fork tender. So now it's time to add in our curry paste. I'm using this golden curry medium hot version. It's really not that spicy, but you can do the mild if you would like. And then this was the better than bouillon paste that I used. When you open the curry, it's going to give you a bunch of different blocks. We're going to use 2 of the blocks in total, and we're going to kind of chop these up to get this kind of grainy texture, just to help incorporate it into our curry. So go ahead and add those 2 blocks in and give them a nice mix. Our curry is tasting great. At this point, make sure you try it for seasoning to see if you want more or less, but our texture is not quite there. So I'm going to add in a cornstarch slurry to help thicken things up. It's looking better, but it's not quite there, so we're going to do it 1 more time, mix everything together, let it cook for a little bit, and now our texture is perfect. You can see it's coating our veggies. It's nice and glossy. It's thick, but it's not too thick. Again, this is just personal preference. For the sesame soy cucumbers, we're going to start by taking the tips off, cutting it in half, and then making these coin-like shapes, just going straight down the cucumber. Once you've got all of them chopped up, go ahead and place it into this deli container. Chop up your other cucumber, and then we're going to season with salt, a little bit of sesame oil, some soy sauce, garlic powder or fresh garlic, black pepper, everything but the bagel seasoning. And I would have used chili oil here, but I only had red chili flakes. And finally, for a little sweetness, we're gonna add a little bit of honey in. Then go ahead and put the lid on and shake it. These cucumbers really do bring the entire dish together. They're gonna add such a nice contrast to everything. And now it is time to plate. I like to go side by side, half rice, half curry, but you can just put it on a bowl. It's gonna taste amazing no matter how you plate it. Once you've added your curry, I like to add a little bit more sauce, and then we're going in with our tofu. Then on the other side, we're gonna add in some cucumbers. Sprinkle over some more everything but the bagel seasoning. If you had chili oil, I also recommend adding some chili oil, and then top with your green onions. And now just admire your masterpiece. I'm not gonna lie guys, I tried to give you guys some commentary as I was eating this, but it was so good that I could not. Every time I wanted to say something, I just kept going back in for another bite.
I don't even want to talk, I just want to keep eating.
See, I told you guys. Everything about this dinner is perfect. Curry balances the cucumber. There's so many different textures, hot and cold. I mean, what more can you really want?
Any of my recipes you make, this is the one, please. So easy, so good, so simple. You're gonna love it, I guarantee you. So please try this. Thank you so much, Josh.